Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. Today I'd like to look at some trades we had in the US E-minis during yesterday. That was May the 2nd. This is using MTPredictor 6.5. Let's start by having a look at the YM on a 3-minute chart. You can see it was a relatively quiet day early on, but then we had this lovely TS3 sell arrive here at on that bar there at 14:18, so 18 minutes past 2. As you can see, the STF here was black, so it was a flat trend according to MTPredictor, so a valid trade setup for everybody to take. So let's put the analysis on. Right mouse click, select automatic analysis, click on the coloured reversal bar, which is this one, and we get the trade setup appear. As normal, we have the position sizing, gives us the number of contracts to trade to keep our risk small and under control. In this example, less than 2% of a $20,000 account. If I zoom out, you can see the market did indeed decline extremely nicely right down to our first profit target, which it hit here at about 3:30 in the afternoon New York time. At that time we go down to look at the strength band, which is here in relation to the STF, and as you can see, the strength band is weak. In other words, the STF is less than the strength band. When this happens, we assume that the market is not trending, therefore we want to come out using our WPT targets, which, as you can see, this target here nailed the very low of the day for us. So a lovely place to look to bank profits. The profit at this level was approximately plus 6.7 R, yes, 6.7 times the initial risk. So that meant for a $390 initial risk, this trade would have returned a $2,600 profits. So a very nice trade indeed. And in fact, actually, this was a perfect example of a standard MTPredictor trade setup, where the setup arrived on either on the correct STF direction. In this case it was black. We then came down here and managed the trade coming out at the first target because the STF was weak. So a perfect standard and automatic MTPredictor trade setup with a great result of plus 6.7 R profit. So good result. Let's have a look at some of the other markets. On the Russell Index, we had a TS4 buy here that went up into, if I put the DP on, went up into the DP from the prior wave, the wave below. So in this example, if I put the analysis on, at the very least, when the market got up here, you should have your stop at break even. So this would have been a break even trade. There was a TS3 buy here, but as you can see, this was against a red STF, so you wouldn't consider it anyway. So there was a potential break-even trade, so nothing much happening on the Russell. Let's have a look at the ES. Again here, if I zoom out, we had a DP sell here that nailed the high of the day, but because this was against the blue STF, this was only a trade that some of the more experienced traders among you could consider, and I'll go on to a manual trade in a minute on the NQ. There's actually a better trade to take, but even if you did take this one, STF was strong, so you would have managed it down into the ATR stop here for a nice trade. But again, this would have only been for the more experienced traders, but as you can see, it did nail the high of the day. The TS4 buy here was against a red STF, so you'd want to ignore it. Let's have a look at the NQ. Yes, there was a TS4 buy here, and as you can see, it came in on this low here against a black STF was valid, but we were past the 100% initial risk level, so if you're unsure of this, you'd be at break even anyway. But as we're on the NQ, I want to have a look at another trade that more experienced traders could have taken a bit earlier on, and that's to do with this high here. And you remember we had a DP sell on the ES, an automatic DP sell that I said wasn't ideal, and let's see why this NQ was actually better. Well, if I go to the 15-minute charts, you can see we had a potential DP sell on the YM, so that gave an indication of a high coming in. On the Russell Index there wasn't anything. On the ES there wasn't anything on the 15-minute chart. That's why I said the 3-minute DP was not ideal. But if we go to the NQ, you can see if I clear the chart off, you can see we did have an automatic DP buy at the high of the day. And if I put the DP on from the prior swing, you can see we also had what I call larger degree resistance on the 15-minute chart. That's why this was basically about 10:30 in the morning. That's why when we go to the 3-minute chart, you'll see why I consider that a better trade. So just remember that on the 15-minute NQ, we had decision point resistance at about 10:30. So if I go back to the NQ, 10:30 is around about, well, it's during this consolidation here. So let's go and put the DP back on from the prior swing, which was here, which was the same swing as the 15-minute. And as you can see, the market went right up into that and gave us, well, actually we had two attempts at it on a red sell bar. This one here would have been filled, and this one here would have been filled. If we put the target on, which was back to the prior swing here, this was the target. The first attempt at this would have been on this bar that would have been filled, and as you can see, this would have just been stopped out from -1R loss, so remember that, -1R. We then come in again for a second attempt at this high here, which actually was the high of the day. We come back down to our same target, and as you can see, well, actually I probably missed that slightly, it was nearer plus 4.5. So plus 4.5R, and that again shows the power of the MTPredictor software in that this high here, which was the high of the day, was projected in advance on the 15-minute chart, and even when we came in with a -1R loss to start with, the second trade came down here and was much larger at plus 0.5R. So that's the power of the software, keeping the losses small when they come through and the profits large. Let's put the Elliott waves on coming down here, and as you can see, we also had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave swing down into the low, which also gave another reason why we would be looking to take profits or protect our trade coming down into this low here. So as you can see, this was a good trade to take and actually resulted in a nice profit, and this was sort of for the more advanced traders among you. And as you can see, if I scroll out, that actually nailed the very high of the day and nailed the very low of the day for you. So that's not bad when you're a day trader to be able to project in advance levels that nail the high of the day and the low of the day and catch a very nice trade in between. So for advanced traders, you would have had a very good trade early in the morning coming off this swing down here, and then later in the day, if I go back to the YM, for all MTPredictor users, there was this lovely standard TS3 sell that came down for a lovely plus 6.7R profit here. So yes, there were a couple of losses, but the losses were kept small at just -1R, and as you can see, the profits, which were plus 4.5 on that first manual NQ trade and plus 6.7R on this automatic YM trade, were much larger, and as such it would have been a very good day overall for both standard and some of the more advanced MTPredictor users among you.